When I'm not downvoting other guitar channels' videos on Reddit, I'm trying to answer questions off the internet. So let's get right to it. What is your writing process, and what are some tips you would give someone new to writing songs? Well, my writing process has kind of drastically changed throughout the years. I remember when I first started, I would just use open chords, and I would kind of just try to jam words into those chords without really thinking of melodic structure, key changes, stuff like that, anything like that. And that was fine. I think early on I realized that I had to write a lot of bad songs before I wrote anything even kind of reasonably good. In fact, I remember the first song that I ever wrote was, I think I was a senior in high school, and I had a history project where I had to do a presentation on Argentina. So I was trying to get by with writing a song about Argentina instead of actually doing research and doing an actual project. So I wrote a song kind of just outlining the GDP of the country of Argentina and just literally listing its highest imports and exports and population and crime rate and stuff like that. And again, it was a pretty stupid song, but I mean, it had a verse and it had a chorus. And anytime I had a school project, I would just do like a stupid song like that. And really just going through the process kind of helped me. So then by the time I was in college, I graduated to trying to impress girls by writing songs. And those were all kind of painful and lame and whatever. And hopefully all evidence of them has been destroyed. But again, throughout just the process of doing it over and over, I felt like I was able to get more creative in my compositions, and then I kind of understand it a little bit better, how to build tension up into a chorus, along with just like studying kind of like some of my favorite songs, learning how to play songs by artists that I like, and not trying to rip them off too much. But I mean, you know, your inspirations and your idols are always going to be kind of part of who you are as a player. So my main advice is just to keep doing it and to never ever be embarrassed of maybe like some of the songs or the work that you're churning out, and to not be ashamed of it, because everybody writes bad songs before they write good songs. You know, it might take you 100 songs, 1,000 songs before you can write an actual good one, or what, you know, some people think is good. Because again, it's all relative. So don't ever be embarrassed. Just keep doing it, keep doing your thing, and eventually you'll develop your own writing process. Because like I said, everybody's process is different, and everybody's process kind of changes over time depending on their mood, depending on what instrument they write on, and a lot of different factors. So just keep doing it. How many different instruments can you play, or do you own? What was the process of learning a new instrument? And are there any useful tips, or does it just take a lot of practice? So my main instrument is guitar, but soon after I started playing piano and drums. So I guess my main instruments would be guitar, bass, piano, drums, and really anything with strings on it I can kind of fake a little bit and make it seem like I know how to play them. But I would really highly recommend to anybody who is just playing any of those instruments to try to pick up another one if they have access to one pretty quickly, because any new instrument, no matter what it is going to offer you a different perspective on music. Because a lot of people's goal, and maybe what should be your goal, is just to become a good musician rather than a good guitar player, a good piano player, whatever. Because the versatility is something that is like a really cool thing to have, and it's really helpful in like, you know, countless situations. But again, for tips, I think one thing to do would be, maybe if you just know a song on guitar, try to play that exact same song on a piano, like transpose it, as it were. And the process of doing that, even if it's a simple song, you'll kind of get an idea of the differences of them. Like piano is like, I kind of see that as like an instrument of inversions, and I see guitar as like an instrument of shapes and stuff like that. And really, everybody learns from different perspectives, and one instrument might suit your perspective over another. So I think there's a lot of value in trying different instruments out, and especially trying out the same song across different instruments to really get a good idea of how it is. And it's not really, I think you might be surprised at how once you get good at one instrument, it's a lot easier to pick up a second instrument or a third instrument, because again, you are just becoming more of a musician, and you're just learning really the technical processes behind a certain instrument and applying your musicianship to that instrument. What is the difference between the A7 and the A major 7? So, if you don't know, an A7 chord sounds like this, and an A major 7 chord sounds like this. So they're both very similar chords. In fact, they're chords that have 4 notes, and there's only one note that separates the two. The A major 7 takes the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th notes from the A major scale. And any major 7 chord does that. It takes the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th note. The A7 chord, or any 7th chord, takes the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and a flat 7 note. So it is kind of a confusing name that they call it A7, which is short for A dominant 7, why they just call it an A7. I personally would think that an A major 7, since it follows more strictly the rules of the major scale, having the 1, 3, 5, and major 7 in it, I feel like that's kind of a more important chord. In fact, I think major 7 chords are like the best chords out there. But for whatever reason, they thought that the dominant 7 chord should be shortened to just the 7 chord. So it is a little bit confusing, but again, it's just that one note, the 7th note. In the major scale, if you're using that one, it's an A major 7. If you're flattening that, it's called an A7, A dominant 7. So for listening homework this week, I want you to listen to a guy named Andrew Bird. He's been around for a while. He's just got a newish album out called Are You Serious? And I'm going to link you to a song called Roma Fade. Now, he's actually a violin player by trade, but he also plays guitar and a lot of his stuff too. And I actually saw him live once. It was an interesting experience because he was like drunk. He was totally wasted and was really belligerent to the audience, which I thought was kind of hilarious. But he still put on like a pretty amazing show, and he was looping himself a lot with a violin and a guitar, which was kind of making his drunken looping even that much more impressive. But anyways, I want you to check it out because he kind of plays guitar. Well, he plays violin kind of like a guitar lead instrument, and his concept of melody is very similar to how maybe like a guitar player might think in kind of like a rock alternative atmosphere. So check out Andrew Bird, Roma Fade, and check out his back catalog because he's got a lot of great albums. He's been putting out work for a long time. And yeah, let me know what you think. Also, any questions, comments, please leave them below, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thanks.